Hey guys, you're watching VaulSC. We're going to take a look at a bat rep between Onyx, the Combined Army Sectorial, and Aleph, and just vanilla Aleph, not any of this Steel Phalanx stuff. And we're going to be playing Safe Area, a mission where the main aim is to end the game with more quadrants controlled than your opponent. You can also gain points by leaving specialists in base-to-base contact with some of the consoles, and of course there's the classified stuff as well. You can get a bonus point by having your data tracker in one of the dominated zones. So having a look at it, this is our table. Just for once, we decided not to use one of the awesome battle mats we always use, just to mix things up a bit. Just because it gets a bit monotonous with the same mats all the time, so just for a little bit of variance, we went with a plain brown dirt battlefield. So just breaking it up here, if I use the pen and if I draw a dotted line along here, my deployment zone is on the left. So this is Combined Army or Onyx on the left over here. We've got Aleph on this side, and the Aleph deployment zone is just roughly along here somewhere. Having won the lieutenant roll-off, I managed to just win that, so I'm going to go with straight up second turn. It's easier to win this mission with second turn than without. So my opponent's going first and deploying second. Just looking at where the quadrants are, I'm just going to draw another set of dotted lines through here, just so you guys can sort of see a bit more clearly what's what. So you've got the 4 quadrants. There are also these 4 objectives, and we're using these little red markers to represent that. So a great way to win this is to make sure that the 2 quadrants closest to you are safe at the end of the game, and then just kill the things in one of your opponent's zones, or move a very expensive model into one of their zones, having more points in it, or a combination of killing something expensive and moving in your very expensive trooper to dominate and to trump over their smaller models. I think it's really important to talk about Intelcom in this mission, because having more quadrants secured at the end of the game is worth a whopping 4 points. Such a massive swing, and all the other ways of getting points are fairly negligible in terms of classifieds or controlling the consoles. One thing you can do with Intelcom is to say, right, I'm going to exchange my classified card for the ability to add the points value, the number written in the corner of the card, to a particular zone at the end of the game. So let's say, looking at this table again, that I'm going first with, let's say I'm playing Onyx here, and let's say I've ticked off this zone here, and I've ticked off this zone here, so I've won those ones, and my opponent has ticked off this one, but he's got more consoles, or she's got more consoles, so we're really just fighting over this one here. And let's say we end up with me having maybe a few points worth of troops beyond what my opponent has, so it's going to go to me, but then we both turn over our classified and say, look, we're both using Intelcom, and we're going to add the value of that card. And let's say I've got a card which has the number 5 printed on it, and my opponent has the number 30 printed on theirs, so they win purely because of the card draw. Now, you might argue that it can also be very good to use the Intercom to deny one of their specialists being counted as a specialist for the purposes of controlling a console. You might also argue that that additional point for having a classified is more valuable because you can take 2 zones, they may take 2 zones, and that's the decider. But at the end of the day, the argument that the 4-point swing for having more quadrants is more important, so you should be going for that Intelcom card. Therefore, there is the chance that the game's going to come down to just the luck of who gets the higher card. So that's why usually when I play this game, I say to my opponent, look, would you like to play a friendly version of this game where we don't use Intelcom at all? Here's why. And after I've finished my little rant and explaining that, most people actually say, yes, I agree with you. Let's not use Intelcom. And that's generally how I recommend this mission be played. And I think that this mission does need to be tweaked. Well, let's talk about what happened. Just going to go back a picture. Playing the single Noctify missile launcher in this mission, just taking a photo of hidden deployment so I can prove later that it actually was there. If you look back at this particular image, you can sort of see that that photo corresponded to this little area here. So I've got one Noctifier in the corner there. It doesn't really have much line of sight over this part of the terrain. It's mainly looking at this sort of area through here and this area through here. So that's sort of how it's set up, just waiting for an opportunity to strike. My opponent, though, likes to run stuff like the Asura and the Agema, so I have to be very careful with it against MSV2. Okay, so on my right-hand flank, we're deploying an Echidron. This HVT actually represents a Nexus hacker. The R-drone flash pulse spot here. Umbra Samaritan with Spitfire prone on the rooftop has super jumped to easily get across there. Imatron landing there, and through the middle of the table. This is the brand new Nexus model, not Kernel, the new Diafo, although we're going to be getting him soon because he's awesome, but this is just a standard pleb lieutenant Nexus with 4 of these guys, these Unidrons. I'm going to be adding a 5th Unidron for reserve model, and I like to have more guys that can join the link than I need, just in case one dies. So 2 of these are forward observers, 2 of these are just basic plasma carbine. Towards the left side of my deployment zone, you can see that's where the link team was. We've also got Dr. Worm prone there, Echidron behind the wall, Emitron over here. There's a HVT further on over to the left, a HMG Q drone, and of course further down here is where the Noctifer is hidden. My reserve model is going to be this plasma sniper. Note that the link team leader is on the Nexus, who's prone. Being a non-remote, he can actually go prone, whereas the plasma sniper is just going to be there tanking hits at the start of the game. I want my opponent to shoot me. He's probably going to survive a couple of face-to-face rolls thanks to dogged and remote presence, and if I'm lucky, I might even get a hit with the plasma sniper to really slow him down. I don't mind losing this plasma sniper at the start. I've still got other ways to win the game. I've still got the Noctifer and the Q drone and the Umbra Samaritan, and the link team by themselves, even just with plasma carbines, can still actually roll out and do a lot of hurt. So enemy Aleph player over here has got the Agema missile launcher prone on the rooftop, just carefully poking the side of his base out around this corner. So that's going to mean that he's got line of sight sort of through here and obviously around here along these angles, but not towards one side of the table. This Asura here is the Spitfire Asura, and we've got a Myrmidon officer who's going to be chain of command. AI beacon, what do you call those? Net rods, rather, situated there. On his right-hand side here, so that's where that photo was. On the right-hand side, we've got a helper bot for the Sophatech, which is on the roof over here. So this is the Sophatech here. This here is a Danavas hacker. I believe it's the Hacking Device Plus, another net rod over there. This is the other helper bot for the Sophatech, and he's going to be deploying a proxy as his reserve model, which is going to include I think it's the engineer or maybe the doctor or whatever it was, the submachine guy with the 2 double submachine guns, and there's going to be a assault hacker through the middle of the table also. So that's just a look at his left-hand side setup, and you can sort of see the Sophatech to the right there. Okay, HVT going down nearby as well. So going into the first turn, Myrmidon officer throwing down a smoke grenade, and the trick here is to allow for the smoke grenade to advance. He doesn't really want to have a shootout with just the Asura and the Plasma Sniper in the link team, because Plasma Sniper has better range band and is Ballistic Skill 14. So I've deployed my reserve model in a spot where I'm just actually checking at his Asura straight away. So the smoke template there is to allow it to advance into cover. The other cool thing it allows him to do is we can do a coordinated order here, which involves the Asura and the Agema and the proxy. So the cool thing about that is that the proxy can be used to sacrifice its body against the Unidron, and if you look carefully, the Unidron is actually pictured up here. So if there's another model further to the right-hand side over here which moves out as part of the coordinated order, the Unidron has to take its shot straight away. It can't delay unless something happens within 8 inches for 6 cents. So the Unidron is forced to fire its plasma sniper over at the proxy model. In the meantime, the Agema and the Asura both get to fire normal roll shots at the plasma sniper. Now, to be honest with you, I'm fine with this because it basically sacrifices this this proxy model over here to the sniper, and if I'm lucky, the sniper may even survive the shots. What ends up happening though, and I found this kind of annoying, is that the plasma sniper, even though it hit like the proxy with 2 shots full in the chest, he passed so many armor or BTS saves that it only went into NWI. And in the meantime, the missile launcher and the Asura did so much damage to the Unidron that I just got taken straight out. So that was a shame. I was hoping to at least force a little bit more damage there, but he did well killing the Unidron straight away. But look, we can account for that. That's all right. In the meantime, the proxy moving out with its other body here, the posthuman moving out with the other proxy, I should say, and that is the double SMGs guy moving towards my zone. Now, the reason he's moving into this building is that Bit and Kiss, my freshly painted Bit and Kiss, which you can't see because I haven't taken any good photos of them, are inside of this building here. So what he's going to be doing is opening the door, moving on in there, and start spraying with his SMG. Elsewhere, the Asura moves out. Now, I could spring the trap with my Noctifer, but I just don't think that would be very smart because the Asura is very tough. Even a missile isn't likely to take her down. And with the Spitfire and MSV3, she's probably going to kill the Noctifer, to be fair. So, not springing the trap with the Noctifer just yet. We can use the Samaritan to maybe take out the Asura before moving into play with the Noctifer, of course. Note that there is a bit of, contention here as to whether the Asura, who's pictured here, can see the Q drone, which is here, is their line of sight. Now, we checked it, and looking at the dotted line, we got out the laser, and it was really close, and we weren't able to tell for sure, so benefit of the doubt, we decided that the Q drone could, in fact, not see the Asura. So that's fine. Alright, so what this picture is about to show here is that the posthuman proxy with SMGs is opening the door to this room, which is around about here, and the model for the posthuman is around about over here, and it's going to be moving directly into the room. What you can see in the room here is Kiss here with its adhesive launcher and Bit prone on the ground with its submachine gun. And he's going to be just letting loose with his submachine gun, just raking everybody, putting 1 shot into Bit, 1 shot into Kiss, 1 shot into the R drone next to the wall here, and 1 shot at the Imatron in the foreground of our photo. So that happens. And the result is that the submachine gun does really, really well. It actually takes out Bit, so no more killer hacker for me. Bit goes down straight away. Does manage to beat the flash pulse bot despite mimetism and cover. Destroys my R drone right up, and does get a hit onto the Imatron, which is not saved. So 3 kills straight away, 3 orders down. The only thing that goes well for me here is that the adhesive launcher does hit him and immobilizes him. So trading 1 model for 3 models effectively. Pretty good play there by the SMG. Again, although I'm taking some casualties, I don't really mind. I'm starting the game with like 16, 17 orders. He's taking out things which aren't really crucial for me winning at the end of the game, and he's spending heaps of orders doing that and putting me into a position where I can kill a few things which will continue to do damage later. So I'm hoping Aleph runs out of steam here. Aleph will slowly run out of models which can actually do a lot of work, and we'll be left with just the models which are supplying the orders and can't really move into zones very effectively at the end, setting up a win condition position where hopefully in the last game round I can quite easily move models into the right zones and win that way. So that's the plan. So you can see here the posthuman opens the door, moves in, moves back again, but gets hit by the adhesive launcher. So there we go. Unfortunately, our drone is taken out, but you can see on the other side of the wall, posthuman is immobilized. We've still got our hacker and our Icadron and everything, though. Okay, so Onyx turn 1. It's time to get some stuff done. So the luckily this Q drone is within range of the Icadron in terms of zone of control. That allows me to spend an order from group 2 on my Nexus hacker, using the repeater to put assisted fire onto the Q drone. Then it's able to move out behind this barricade and shoot at the posthuman proxy in the distance, which was damaged by the plasma sniper, and this enables me to kill it with my my Q drone. Then, with that being done, and after checking very carefully, and we did very carefully ascertain that this Agema missile launcher only had sort of line of sight along this side of the table because, again, just part of its space is sticking out behind the lip of a building. He can't actually see over this direction to where my Umbra Samaritan is, allowing me to actually stand up, do some super jumping, and super jump down into close combat with the frozen proxy. So just to be careful about this, I'm just going to rewind the whole bat rep just to this point where you can see what's going on. So if you look carefully here, the base of this model, as we discussed before, is set up so that it can see a little bit past here and through over here. So it's got an arc. There's a bit of a wedge, but that line here doesn't actually pick up the position of the Umbra Samaritan, if you guys can feel me on that one. So if we now fast forward through to the point where we're now discussing, you can sort of see here the building in the distance, where the Samaritan is, we're all good. So with the Samaritan jumping down in close combat, this is ideal because this is a model which can sustain 2 wounds. It can't fight back. I can just suck the life of it. Umbra Samaritan sinks his teeth into the neck. Vampire time. Unluckily though, and this was very frustrating, the first 2 attempts for me to actually remove the model and suck up the 2 wounds didn't result in that. He kept passing BTS saves against the Protheon or the armor saves or whatever you need to do. So it took 3 orders to fully remove this model. Thing is though, it's still worth it because I've got more orders left and the Umbra Samaritan now can sustain 4 wounds. He started on 1 wound, now goes up to 3 wounds plus NWI. Technically counts as a 2 wound model for the rest of the game. So unless he's up against shock, he should be alright. Spending more orders, and you can see these blue pebbles representing the additional wounds he's gained from Protheon, just swiftly floating across the battlefield like the sinister guy that he is, getting into position here to move around the corner and start hitting the Asura. The plan is to rake her with the Spitfire on the way in, and then as I take damage, continue sucking the life out of her and beating her in close combat, maybe even using the Vorpal close combat weapon. So moving around here straight away. Now this face-to-face roll turned out to be a disaster for the Asura. She fires back at him with a Spitfire, manages to miss completely because it's short range, needs something like a 14, and just whiffs that shot. In the meantime, the Samaritan plants all 4 hits into her straight away, and she fails 3 armor saves and just dies, just goes unconscious. So that was horrible. In the meantime, the Samaritan can walk past here and actually put a shot into the AI beacon here and a shot into the AI beacon here and just remove those 2 orders. That's quite important because if I can reduce my opponent to like 5 or 6 orders for the rest of the game, I mean, he's just starting with 10 orders and that's it, then it should be really easy for me to prevent him from moving expensive models into my zones and win the game that way. Now, my opponent pointed out here that I had miscounted my orders. I was flipping orders over and I'd done it incorrectly, and that's completely on me, my fault. He was right about that. And my Umbra actually got stranded out here, running out of orders, when I thought I had 1 order left to possibly, jump around a corner or super jump up onto a roof or something cool like that. Just wasn't able to do it at the end of that, but still doing pretty well to, get those kills and get up to basically 3 wounds plus NWI. Now, I made a mistake there. My opponent also made a mistake, so we're even. He forgot to deploy his regular camo marker guy. Just completely forgot it. We're already like an entire game round in, and he's forgot to put a model on the table. So this is a friendly game, not a tournament game. I've messed up by, miscounting my order pool. He's messed up by misdeploying a model. That's fine. I just said to him, hey, look, put the model somewhere where you think, you would have put it, and he put it next to this objective, just so he can camp it for the zone later and possibly put a specialist into base contact with it later. That's fine. I think this is a Naga killer hacker or something like that. Okay, so my opponent now revealing the proxy with assault hacking and moves over here to shoot at the Samaritan in the back. Unluckily, though, it's just a boarding shotgun, so he's got to shoot it at long range. It's 0s to hit. I can sustain a whole lot of wounds. As soon as he stands up, he may get shot at by my Noctifer or whatever. I decided to reveal the Noctifer, even though the odds of hitting are really, really low. I'm catching him at a point where he's split between shooting at the Umbra and shooting back at me. Now, a boarding shotgun, shooting at long range, behind cover, against TO, just can't hit the Noctifer, so even though I need something like a 6 to hit with the Noctifer, may as well take it, because if I do hit him, then that really helps me in my position here. So Noctifer is revealed. Does manage to miss, unfortunately, though. Because he's missed and the Noctifer has been hit but survives, the Noctifer turns around. The Mermaid Officer throws down a smoke template represented by this little dot here. That's the middle of the template, so realistically the template is actually not touching it, but it is obscuring these guys here. Now this is good because it allows the Agema to stand up and actually shoot at the Noctifer, shoot at the Umbra, and so on. And the great thing here is that if he stands up, forces the Umbra to just basically do a change-facing dodge, and he shoots me for free. Unluckily for him, though, it's at short range, and the Umbra has tons of wounds, and has also got hyperdynamics. Now, guys, I know that hyperdynamics works for normal dodges and engage. I'm not even sure if it works for change face dodges, but I'm pretty sure that it does. Just correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I haven't bothered to look it up. So as you can see here, Agema having a go at the Umbra, but although it strips a couple of wounds off the Umbra, it just doesn't manage to get those kills in. So Umbra is just sitting pretty here, just getting shot at by everybody, basically. He even decides to bring on a, what do you call this guy, the Garuda. Sadly, it's a Garuda with a boarding shotgun. I strongly recommend you guys take the Spitfire profile at all times, or even the combi rifle. But this guy has his go at shooting the Umbra from long range, just can't get any work done because he's got a boarding shotgun. He brought the Garuda on because he saw that I changed face to, so I was actually getting the proxy and the Agema in my front arc, whereas the Garuda can now come in from the back arc, but just not getting anything done. So he's moving up. Turn's basically going to end here. So I've still got an Umbra sitting there, and it's my turn again. So putting assisted fire back onto the Q drone, we're going to have another go at shooting against the Agema. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be long range. So with assisted fire ignoring cover, 11s go down to 8s to hit. He's going to be hitting me on 13 to hit because he's got MSV. So unluckily, I lose this face-to-face roll as well, and the Q drone dies. I wanted to have a crack at this because if I had managed to do it, it would have really freed me up to get a lot more done with the Umbra. But as it is, this happened. The other thing I decided to do was to move out with the Unidron Link team. This was to shoot them at the Garuda, but also to set them up for moving into the zone later in the final turn. Now, this also didn't go very well. They had a go at shooting at the Garuda long range, but just couldn't get the job done. Garuda bounced back behind cover, and now I've got my Unidrons fairly well out in the open. So you can sort of see here very vaguely that the Garuda is off to the corner here, and I'm trying to shoot a plasma carbine at long range with assisted fire to get this happening, but it turned out to be a bit of a harebrained stunt that didn't work too well. So the Umbra Samaritan, who has lost 3 wounds, he's an NWI. It's not a huge risk, but he does decide to move out now and just shoot a Spitfire at the Garuda. And I was just worried that I might lose the face-to-face roll or get crit and die. I would have preferred to have cleared out the arrows first and then moved over to attack something in close combat so I could instantly suck the wounds back up and keep them going for a while. Anyway, as predicted though, the Umbra does manage to destroy the Garuda pretty easily. What it can then do is move around the side of this building, and what's really fun here is that his silhouette is like this, and if it wants to, it can super jump just the minimum distance required to put the lip of its silhouette over top of here and come into line of sight of this Sophitect without coming into range of the Denavas or the Agema, which is further along here, if you guys get me. So super jump allowing me to just hover up there and destroy the Sophitect instantly, crippling it with the Spitfire and doing quite well there. So that's another order removed, and the Samaritan gets into a position where it's a bit safer. Also, with the realizing the Agema and the Sophitect Denavas are facing the wrong way. The Agema has basically got line of sight along here and is facing that way, and the Denavas is facing this way. So I realized, actually, instead of shooting, why don't I just super jump up on top of the building into close combat, and just whack her with the Prothion claws, sink the teeth in, and basically go back from NWI back up to 3 wounds. So that's effectively what happened before the Umbra jumps back down there. Doesn't quite go up to 3 wounds, but does go back up to the, the 1 wound state, removing NWI, and then going up to 2 wounds by sucking up the additional life point. So that was remarkably effective, I must say. Alright, so my opponent, feeling a bit desperate in his last turn, moving the Denevest onto this building here to actually attack the Samaritan with a combi rifle, which I thought was quite funny because the entire Link team here, well not the entire Link team, but a couple of guys here can shoot with their plasma carbines, and there's even an Echidron over here which can shoot its plasma, not its plasma, its forward-observing flash pulse. So the Denevest does actually not succeed in killing the Umbra, although to its credit, does manage to get a wound off onto the Umbra. So now he's basically going to move out with the Agema. The Agema started out over here. He's now moving onto the bridge, just trying to get better positioning. Having destroyed the Noctifer and the Q-Drone, it's quite hard for me to engage this Agema with just the Link team and plasma carbines. So I've just sort of got to watch out here. Otherwise, moving on to the zones at the last turn could be problematic. He's also got a Myrmidon officer there, which he's going to be putting into suppression fire. So there we go, Myrmidon officer just moving around the corner with the lieutenant's order because he's taken over chain of command from the Asura and just putting out suppression fire, especially importantly along this angle here because the Umbra is behind this building and is going to be needing to move through into this zone to capture it for scoring purposes. Plus the Samaritan is the data tracker, but if it gets killed in the process by the suppression fire, then that's obviously not going to work very well, is it? Okay, and he's also got the old boarding shotgun still here, just covering a small section along this part of the battlefield. Moving the Naga into base contact with the console. Again, purpose of that is to gain that additional tie-breaking point for the scenario. So my turn, the Umbra gets to basically fly up here with super jump and have a go at taking on the Agema. And amazingly, gets hit by a critical hit from the Agema. So that's not great, is it? It's not wonderful. So luckily I survived. I was on 2 wounds there and went down to NWI again. So a loss of 2 wounds. I passed the 3rd armor save. So that sucks. But I've got another order to try this out again. So the Samaritan does fly up there and does kill the Agema this time. So Agema removed. That's quite important because it now allows me to sort of creep forward into my zone with the Hacker and the Echidron with the Orders in Group 2. There's another Echidron further out there able to score in this zone. So the 2 zones closest to me are captured. It's just the 2 zones closest to my opponent which are not captured, because he's got a Naga in one of his zones over here, and he's got the proxy sort of covering off the zone over here. So it's actually dead even at this point. In fact, he's up a point because he's got his guy in base-to-base with a console. So moving out with my Link team now, I'm trying to move them into the zones as well, just to see if I can get far enough to his side of the table that I can add their points to one of the zones. But unfortunately, getting close to this Assault Hacker means that he's going to start to hit me with Carbonites and crap like that. I do have BTS 6, which is pretty handy, but there's only so far that the Unidrons can get. Fortunately, though, the Nexus is not hackable and can move towards his area and secure his HVT. So eventually, you get to a point where the Nexus, situated here, is actually in range of his HVT, which I believe is on the other side of this wall here. So that's going to allow me to get the same number of points as him. I've got 2 zones, he's got 2 zones. I've got a classified from the HVT, he's got a console picked up. So the last thing for me to do here is to actually move through with the Umbra into his zone, because the Umbra's worth a lot more points than the proxy is. But I have to either win the face-to-face roll against the Myrmidon officer or not die to it. But I've only got 1 wound left from NWI. Now, unfortunately, the Myrmidon wins this, and I fail the armor save and die. This basically puts me out of orders, and I realize that the game's actually a draw now because the Umbra didn't manage to get in there, and I've failed to get my guys far enough into the right zone to have more points in them than my opponent. Looking back at this, I was clearly in a winning position, but I dropped the ball here because I wasn't really paying enough attention. What I really should have done, because I sort of put more points in the zones than I really needed to, I put an Echidron into a zone where, you know, there was nothing else in there, and then I moved the Hacker in there as well, and I didn't really need to. So I should have focused my orders a bit more into just making sure I absolutely stuffed the correct zone with the right amount of points. What I should have done is really have just spent all the orders in Group 1, moving the entire Unitron Link team over into this zone over here. And I don't think the hacker would have been enough to stop me. And I should have just ignored the Umbra really, and just rather than taking this risk here, I should have just moved all of the Unitrons over to this this zone, because the Echidron in my zone over here already had that locked down, and it was unlikely that the post-human would have been able to stop all of those Unitrons getting in there. So yeah, that was a pretty cool game. Love seeing the Umbra in so much action. It's awesome seeing so much vampirism. You don't get to see the Umbra do as well in every single game you take him, but when he does get into action and has the right opportunities, he really shines. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We're having another back rep soon. Possibly some uprising stuff coming soon as well. Stay tuned, and we'll see you again soon.